Good morning, ladies. Good morning. And a couple of gentlemen in here. I should probably recognize them as well. Thank you all so much for being here with us this morning. I am going to get started with a door prize. So, our very first door prize winner is Whitney Snyder. Whitney, if you'll come up to Abby. Okay, so some of you may be up here going, okay, you are not Paige Thompson. We know what Paige Thompson looks like, and you are not her. Paige, I'm Christina Ryan. I'm the Campaign Development Director for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, and I'm the Vice Chair of the Women in Business Committee. And as the Vice Chair, sometimes you get an email late at night with a family emergency. So Paige, while she cannot be here with us physically, I know she's here with us in spirit, and our thoughts are with Paige and her family right now. And we hope that you all have a wonderful time this morning with us. And welcome to all of our friends watching virtually. Thank you for tuning in this morning. We hope that you enjoy today's program as well. All right, so today you get to hear from 3 different rock star speakers. You're going to be able to leave empowered to grow yourself, your business, and others around you. We will hear how they paved the way in their careers and are leaving the road smoother to bring others up with them. Now, I don't know about you, but that sounds like a morning I want to be a part of. Thank you to our sponsors this morning. We have some amazing sponsors, and we do want to make sure that we recognize them. Vanderbilt Health, Fourth Capital, Grogan Jewelers, and Carbon Culture. Did I get it right? Oh, well, hey, I'm just flying through things. There we go. Carbon Culture, Fourth Capital, Grogan Jewelers, and Vanderbilt Health. Our centerpieces this morning are by Belle Fleur. Our door prizes are by Narrowgate and Grogan Jewelers, and they're going to be up for grabs, so you got to do 2 things to get the door prizes. There is a container out there that you need to drop your business card in to qualify for a door prize. And then I think Grogan Jewelers also has something that you can fill out as well for theirs, so make sure that you do that. Today's live stream is made possible by the generous support of Career Thrivers and Narrowgate Coffee. Generously donated the coffee at each of your settings to keep your day energized. So thank you to each one of you. Their generous support makes this event possible, and right now we'd like for you to turn your attention to the screen for a video from our presenting sponsor, Vanderbilt Health, and we also have a video from Grogan Jewelers.
At Vanderbilt Health, we know it's one thing to know the pulse of our patients. It's another to know the pulse of an entire community. For decades, Vanderbilt Health has been a part of Williamson County, caring for children and adults with treatments, technologies, and services that only we can offer. It's care that's provided by over 3,000 of our employees who call Williamson County home. We're making healthcare personal.
Lifetime jewelry should be bought from a lifetime jeweler. For over 100 years, Grogan Jewelers by Lawn has made this once-in-a-lifetime experience fun and easy. We have the perfect ring for your perfect partner. Whether shopping our large inventory or working with our in-house jeweler on your own custom design, we have the ring that will make her say yes. Family owned and trusted by thousands, we at Grogan Jewelers by Lawn are honored to help with one of life's most important decisions.
Please join me in thanking all of our sponsors for today's event. Once again, thank you to all the sponsors. Thank you to each one of you for attending, both in person and virtually. And thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to spend today with us. Again, we are going to feature 3 keynote speakers with short breaks in between each of the speakers. Use that time to introduce yourself in person at your tables, in the chat if you're on with us virtually. Refresh your coffee, grab a drink, grab something else to eat if you'd like, and don't forget to visit the sponsor booths in the hallway and make sure that you're registered for the door prizes. I also want to, in case you need to know where the restrooms are, just through that doorway down the hall. as you are headed to the restrooms, there are some amazing photographs of the Tennessee governors and through the years. So I highly encourage you to check those out as well. All right, our first speaker for this morning is Stacy Spencer, who is the Executive Director of the Narrow Gate Foundation. Stacy?
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good. Make sure you're awake. Make sure you get some more coffee if you need to. My name is Stacy Spencer. I'm so excited to be with you all this morning. And I love this topic of paving the way for the next generation. Now, the reason I love this topic is because I get to live this topic every day. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that as this moment unfolds. But my life was not always that way. I haven't always lived my life for other people. As a matter of fact, paving the way for the next generation requires that you be intentional. You will never be able to impact other people's lives if you think it's going to happen by chance. You have to wake up every day with an intentional mindset that you're going to invest in someone's life and you're going to make someone's day better and someone's life better. And when you do that with small, small steps every day, you wake up one day and you realize that you've left a legacy behind you that you just can't imagine and that just can't be measured. Now, as I said, my life wasn't always about paving the way for other people. I grew up in a small town called Meridian, Mississippi. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of it. It's about 6 hours south of here. I had great parents, and it was an expectation of my parents that I was going to make something of myself. As a matter of fact, I'm 53 now, and I can remember just about 10 or 15 years ago, my dad actually looked at me and he said, "You know, Stacy, your mom and I, we really thought you were going to be somebody." I know, that's heartbreaking, isn't it? That's hard to hear. When you're in your 40s, you're like, what? I thought I was somebody. But I understood at that point what my dad was saying. Because what my dad's philosophy of making a difference was making a name for myself. What my dad wanted to see me do in life was to build something that was so big that he could be proud of. And you know what? I've been able to do that. By the grace of God, I've been able to build something that my dad's not only proud of, but my husband and I are equally proud of. So I was raised back in Mississippi back in the 80s. So I grew up in the 80s when I graduated high school in 1986, showing my age. Any other 80s ladies? Oh, come on, don't be shy. Okay, good. So y'all can understand this. So for me, growing up in the 80s, our mantra, our leadership magazine was Cosmopolitan Magazine, or at least it was for me. It's the magazine my mom gave me when I went to college. And I thought Cosmopolitan Magazine had all the answers for what it meant to be a woman in today's world. And there was also this theme song that we kind of all embraced. I don't know, I won't put this on you other women of my age, but for me, this was the theme song of the 80s. I can bring home the bacon, da-na-na-na, fry it up in a pan, na-na-na-na. Y'all remember this? And never, never let you forget you're a man. Yeah, I'm a woman. I got somebody in the back there. It's silly, but that was the culture that I grew up in that said I could have it all, and I should make a name for myself, and I should build my kingdom, and I should build my empire. And so that's what I set out to do. And by the grace of God, I was able to do that. I went to Belmont University, got my degree in broadcast communications, minor in speech. I was able to work in my industry, which was the TV and film industry, for over 10 years, a male-dominated industry. I was a producer. It was awesome. Achieved all those dreams. I'm 30. At the age of 30, I'm getting married. I'm buying a house. I have my own company, right? That's the goal of life. I had arrived. I was feeling pretty good about myself. And on my 30th birthday, my mom wanted us all to get together because she was a good mom, and she said, "I want to give you something special." And she gave me this really big cardboard box that was wrapped up in wrapping paper. And I remember my family was all around. My husband was there too. And I started unwrapping this box. And as I stared into this box, it was just full of cards and letters. And it was big. It was like this big. And I remember moving away some of the cards, and underneath the cards was a book. I brought it with me. My mom's so awesome. Isn't that great? My mom's in heaven. She's been in heaven about 5 years now. She gave me this book. It says, Stacy, the First 30 Years. And I started opening it and looking at it. And my mom had gone through all the pictures from when I was just born up until the age of 30. And she'd cut out all these pictures and she'd pasted them in this photo book for me. And I was flipping through these pages and I began to weep. I mean, I didn't just get emotional. I was heaving, weeping. And my mom's like, oh, honey, I thought this would make you happy. I thought this was I'm sorry. And I'm like, no, this is great. I didn't even know what to say. So I go home and I process what had just happened. And I began to think about Stacy, the first 30 years. The last page of the book, I think you'll like this. My mom gave us the last page. She had the picture of a wedding dress, pictures of babies, a house. She said, is this possible? She actually wrote, the last page of the book says, be sure to get the sequel. Here are some possible photos for the next book, weddings, kids, house. Well, my mom isn't a prophet, but some of her predictions did come true. I did get married. We did buy a house. We didn't have any children. But for the next few years, this book and these pictures kind of haunted me. Because when I looked at the pictures in the book, the pictures weren't just of me. There were all these people in the book with me. There were my parents, my aunts and uncles, my grandparents, my friends, my teachers, my coaches, my cheerleading team, my dance team, my friends at college. There were all these pictures of other people in my life. And I realized that Stacy, the first 30 years, would never have been possible without all these people. And all the cards were notes that people sent to me that I had lived life with for the first 30 years. And I was overwhelmed at how many lives I had the opportunity to touch. And I began to ask myself, this is all great that all these people have helped me achieve the things that I've been able to achieve, but what have I done for them? And what am I doing with my life today? What am I doing to impact others? So I began to ask those really big life questions, the ones that I'm sure that many of you have asked. And if you haven't asked, I hope that this morning you'll start to ask. What is the purpose of your life? What is the purpose of your business? What is the purpose of the time that you have? You see, this book, that moment in my life, made me realize that my life is not just about me. It's about the people around me. Take a look around the room and around the table for just a moment. It's not a coincidence that you're sitting at a table with other people this morning. We're designed to be in community with others, and you may have the very thing that someone at your table needs. A word of encouragement, a smile, even behind a mask, a hug, a connection. You may have the very thing that somebody else needs if we'll be intentional and we'll offer it up to people. A few years later, my husband and I were still asking those questions. What is the purpose of life? And if the life that we've been given isn't about us and it's about others, well, what do we do about that? Well, we got tricked into going to a church here in Middle Tennessee, and we had an encounter with God that night. And we decided that we no longer wanted to live our lives for ourselves, but we wanted our lives to be about others. But we realized that we had to make that decision every day. And it wasn't long, by God's design, that he brought into our life these two young men. This is me 17 years ago. Yes, I'm a brunette. My husband, and Adam Stoner and Rob Rogers. God brought them into our lives. We gave them jobs in our company. You know why? They weren't qualified. Let me just tell you, they weren't qualified. But they needed direction in life. They needed someone to believe in them, and they needed someone to pave the way for them. So we gave them jobs because we saw potential, and we knew that if we served them and we showed them that we loved them and truly cared for them, that they would experience transformation, and they did. And one night we asked them, what do you want to do with your life? And because we had given our life to them, they said, we want to give our lives for others. So we'd like to start a program for guys like us who have no idea what they want to do with their lives. And they said, would you help us? And that started my husband and I on this journey. And we got out of the company that we had raised up. We gave our company to our employees. And we decided to start a nonprofit organization that today is called Narragate. Our lives became about them, and their lives became about others. We started Narragate 17 years ago, and we still have the privilege to invest in young men ages 18 to 25. We provide them an environment where they can step away from the noise of the world to seek the answers to the questions of life. Two most important questions you may or may not have ever asked. Who am I, and why am I here? 6 years ago, we were fortunate enough to start 3 businesses. Oh, sorry, here's some pictures of us and some of the young men that we've had the chance to influence and impact. I can honestly tell you, I've lived with over 500 men. It's so nice to be in the company of women this morning. This will be the sequel because I made a choice of what the next 30 years would be like. 6 years ago, we were fortunate enough to start 3 businesses in Williamson County. Narragate Woodworks and Narragate Leather Goods, and Narragate Coffee Co. The free coffee on your table, please take it. If there's nobody else at your table, take 2 bags. Enjoy your coffee. Have a cup of coffee and contemplate. Who am I? Why am I here? What am I doing with my days? Am I building my own kingdom? Or am I building an environment, a company, a culture in which I can impact lives? Because ladies, let me tell you, you can. You do not have to forego profit for impact. For 6 years, we've been profitable, and we've been employing not just young men, but young women. We've employed over 50 people in the past 6 years. And our companies are not just creating products that have been transformed. So we take wood, leather, coffee beans, transform them into something useful and beautiful. But our company's mantra, the heart and soul, is transformation of our people. My goal, I have one of my dear friends, Madison, is here today. She works with me. My goal every day is, how do I help Madison get to the next level? Madison didn't become a part of my company to build my company. Madison came into my life so that I could build her up. One of the greatest joys I had recently was we had an employee that was with us for 12 years. When he came to work with us, he knew nothing about video production, but he was interested in it. So we gave him a job. He started out very low pay, but we trained him. We gave him opportunities. We challenged him. He became better and better and better and better. You know what? He got hired off by Dave Ramsey. He's working at Dave Ramsey now. He's making more money than we could have ever afforded as a nonprofit organization. Married, 2 kids, loving his life because we invested in him. That is the greatest joy. No money will ever satisfy that. To know that I was able to make a difference in that young man's life. And all it took was just deciding to do it and being intentional with my days. We believe that the workplace can be transformational, but we have to be intentional. You heard me say, I had an encounter with God. Yes, I'm a Christian. I believe that not everybody has to go to church, but everybody has to go to work. So I use my work, I use our work environment in an effort to impact people's lives every day. And it's not just hoping and trying, we're doing it. Our program for young men, Narrowgate Lodge, has been so successful that about 5 or 6 years ago, we had 40 to 45 other ministries contact us and say, we want to come to your location in Williamsport, Tennessee. So we have 2 locations, our Williamsport, Tennessee location, which is Narrowgate Lodge, and then our businesses, which are located in Franklin. And they said, we want to come and see what you do, and we want to learn from you what you do and how you do it. Can we come? We said, absolutely. We have an open door policy. All y'all are welcome anytime, all y'all. Y'all do all y'alls? There's not a lot of women at Narrowgate, so I need you. Please, please come see me. And these 40, 45 ministries came, and we knew we had to sort of summarize what we do and how we do it. And I'd like to share with you the 3 kind of key principles this morning that help us to do what we do. The first one is we identify the right candidate. We identify the right candidate. Narrowgate Lodge, our program for young men ages 18 to 25, is not open to everyone. It's not right for everybody. Your company is not a perfect fit for everybody. But you can find the right candidate. So be selective. Learn to see people for who they are and not where they are. Who they are. They're a real living person. They are made in the image of God. They have wants and dreams. They have struggles. They have needs. Know your people. Know who they are and where they are. And make sure you learn to spot potential in people. Start practicing. How can I find the potential in this person? We all have potential, and every person who comes into your life every day has some potential. You have to find the potential and invest in that. Our job descriptions at our company and in our nonprofit organization as well include not only job competencies, what are you competent at, what are your skill sets, but we also have a list of things we call attributes. Attributes. These are so essential to make sure I've identified the right candidate, because I can train someone to do the job. I can't train someone to have integrity. I can train someone to do a thing. I can't train someone to be receptive to feedback. So we identified attributes of people that would be successful, and we identified the right candidate. And now I know I've got a good candidate to invest in. I'm going to get a good return on this because I've chosen a good candidate. Can I tell you a funny one? Sometimes we say, well, are they fat? That y'all are going to be happy to be fat now. Are they faithful, available, and teachable? Are they fat? Makes sounding fat good. I'm faithful, I'm available, and I'm teachable. Looking for that right candidate. The second one is to adopt the right posture. Adopt the right posture. Now, I could talk about this for hours and hours, so I'm just going to cut to the chase and tell you. It's a servant-hearted posture. It's a posture that looks out not only for the interest of others, not only for your own interest, but the interest of others. A servant-hearted posture. Now, this is countercultural, and we do this in our organization with a mantra we call know 'em and grow 'em. Know 'em and grow 'em. Every one of our leaders has 5 direct reports in our organization. If you have more than that, we're going to restructure because that's too many. I can't really know 19 people. I know somebody recently, they had 19 direct reports. They're not in a relational style of leadership. They're just managing cogs in a wheel. No more than 5 direct reports, and we meet with them weekly. The third one is employ an effective method. Paving the way for the next generation means you need to understand what's effective for them. For some of my direct reports, it's time and relationship. For others, it's sharing resources. And for others, it's sitting side by side with them and walking through a project so I can model it for them. You need to understand their why and their priorities. Otherwise, we can't help them reach the next level. So what is the path to purpose? It's about living a life that's about more than you. The path to purpose begins when we agree to change our perceptions about what will really matter in the end. And what will matter most is people whose lives we impacted for good. I want to close with this poem. Ready or not, someday it will all come to an end. That's a happy good morning message, huh? Stay with me, though. There will be no more sunrises, no minutes, hours, or days. All things collected, whether treasured or forgotten, will pass to someone else. Your wealth, fame, and temporal power will shrivel to irrelevance. Your grudges, resentments, frustrations, and jealousies will finally disappear. So, too, your hopes, ambitions, plans, and to-do lists will expire. The wins and losses that once seemed so important will fade away. It won't matter where you came from or what side of the tracks you lived at the end. It won't even matter whether you were beautiful or brilliant. Even your gender and skin color will be irrelevant. So what will matter? How will the value of your days be measured? What will matter is not what you bought, but what you built. Not what you got, but what you gave. What will matter is not your success, but your significance. What will matter is not what you learned, but what you taught. What will matter is every act of integrity, compassion, courage, or sacrifice that enriched, empowered, or encouraged others to emulate your example. What will matter is not your competence, but your character. What will matter is not how many people you knew, but how many will feel a lasting loss when you're gone. What will matter are not your memories, but the memories of those who love you. What will matter is how long you will be remembered, by whom, and for what. Living a life that matters doesn't happen by accident. It's not a matter of circumstance, but of choice. Choose to live a life that matters. The sequel of your book, of your life, could start today. All it takes is a choice to live intentionally and pave the way for the next generation. Thank you all so much.
Hey, Stacy, I think you have my notes. I think, yeah. Like, wait a minute, thank you. Okay. Thank you so much for that. Being intentional, really focusing on what matters. And it's not just the situation that matters, but the people around you. So thank you for bringing that back into into reality again. I think we get so caught up in the things that are happening, especially right now, and all the situations around us. So thank you for bringing it back to what's really important and what really matters. Okay, ladies, we get a 5-minute break. So for those of you who are joining us virtually, please don't forget to, in the chat, tell us who you are, where you're from, network a little bit. This is your time to get to know one another. Again, the restrooms are through that door right over there. We'll take a 5-minute break and be back in just a few moments.
That'll be your first time. So I wonder if they've got that. The traffic situation figured out.
They're like this tall. And
So yeah, we
Yeah, and they fold it flat, and they're just like,
I mean, I thought we met before we
little things, and because when I was doing Zoom calls, I couldn't do it on my laptop because we couldn't do Zoom before because the thing couldn't like Zoom.
yes.
Yes, me too. So I could have a picture. I was on a Zoom call for
Which is fine. I mean,
one
then
thing that
they
we
can
didn't
do
have
it.
a tall one, so I
Yeah, I
had to
kind of
like
like
put it on
knitting.
something. And I was on a Zoom call for some people on my iPad up here, had it like propped up on some, I don't know, something, books or something. And I was talking, and then somehow it was at the edge and it fell off the back of the desk. So they could just see it like turn off the back of my desk. Like, hold on. So I had to put it up off the floor. I mean, it was funny, but it was like,
But I do the
obvious
same
what
thing,
happened.
like, you know, because I don't want to pay anything.
Right. Yeah. So I usually try to, even in my office, if I'm on one, I get like business card, box, and then something else. Yeah, I like it. I was like, I mean, I can just do all yes, I do too. Because then I want to stick it in my pocket or something. I'm not on that. And my iPad is an old one, and the screen is flat, but the screen protector is fine, and I can still see it and everything. And turn it on and that, but I was just like,
It's good to see you again, Katie. Pretty much. We met last week.
yes, good to see you.
Very good.
Good.
Did we get dressed? Glad to hear it. I snuck out early last Wednesday to get home to take care of the dog.
That's always a thing.
I feel the guilt.
I bet.
So it's 3 hours before silent into the sunset.
I know, usually, like, I like when I see Reed, and I actually asked him about this. I almost want to like jump on let him out. So it's not like, and I work in Nashville, so it's just kind of like, yeah. But
Absolutely. I saw you across the way.
yeah.
It's always hard being raised so much. I try and remember names and everything.
Yeah. Luckily we all have, I just put this one this way. It's with the big group. Even though you see somebody do better,
Yeah, I'll connect with you on LinkedIn. Right. Yeah. I love it. That's right.
All right, everybody, you will take your seats, and we're going to get started again. Everybody, find your seat. So we're going to keep things rolling along. We are right on time. Abby, you are doing amazing things, keeping us on track. Okay, ladies, so our next door prize winner is Cheyenne Brown.
joining us virtually again. All right, so our next speaker is Stephanie Dedmon. She is the Chief Informational Officer with the Tennessee Department of Finance and Administration. Stephanie?
Thank you. Good morning again. It's good to see all of you, and it's definitely good to be here. And Stacy, that was phenomenal. There are some parallels, I think, to the topic that I wanted to talk about this morning, which is mentoring. When we talk about paving the way, mentoring is a big piece of that, whether you're being mentored or being a mentor. And as was said, I'm the Chief Information Officer for the state of Tennessee, and the first female CIO, something I'm very proud of, but I wouldn't be here if it weren't for those who helped me along the way, both men and women, in formal and informal mentoring relationships, so I do recognize that. So what I wanted to just cover is just all the aspects of mentoring, how to make the most of a mentoring relationship, what works, some lessons learned. And clearly there's two roles here, right? There's you're being mentored, which, you know, as we talk a lot in the state about being lifelong learners. And so being mentored never really stops. I guess if you're the President of the United States or some very high up, even a CIO of an organization has other more experienced CIOs to learn from, CEO. And so I'm a firm believer that mentoring can continue throughout your career. And then there's being a mentor, which is certainly giving back and paving the way for others. And I think both are an important part of our career development. So the importance of mentoring for women, and men too, why is it important? So you can give back to those behind you in honor of those who helped you along the way. It helps develop future leaders. It provides you, as a leader, with insight to younger generations. And I think as a leader, learning from others and understanding what makes people tick and what's important to them and the questions they have and the challenges they have are important part of the relationship. So when I was preparing for today, I found a quote that I thought was very relevant. The delicate balance of mentoring someone is not creating them in your own image, but giving them the opportunity to create themselves, said by Steven Spielberg, but also relates to what Stacy and her great company is doing, giving people the opportunity to create themselves. So what are the important factors in a mentoring relationship? I would say trust, chemistry, accountability, good listening skills, confidentiality, and honesty. And I'm sure you guys can think of many other traits or important aspects of a mentoring relationship. But I think these trust, chemistry, accountability, listening skills, confidentiality, and honesty are part of whether you're being mentored or you are a mentor. These are all important aspects of a good mentoring relationships. Now, I've had the benefit of participating in formal mentoring programs. I spent the first 15 years of my career in the consulting world with Accenture, and then the last 16 and a half years with the state of Tennessee. I'm kind of unusual. I've only had 2 employers, and I know that's pretty rare these days. And formal programs have benefits, as do informal programs. And so by informal, I mean I go out and seek someone and just ask, hey, I'm really looking for a good mentoring relationship, and you seem like somebody I could really learn some things from. That's what I mean by an informal mentoring relationship. So the questions to ask yourself when choosing a mentor: how similar do you want your mentor to be to you? Are they in the same industry? Are they at the same place in their career? Do they have the same socioeconomic background? So it's important to ask yourself, how alike do I want this relationship or the person to be, or how different, and what can I learn from those two aspects? Do you want a mentor inside your organization or from outside your organization? Because both are very helpful and are fair game. How high in the organization do you want your mentor to be? Are they one level up, or are they multiple levels up? And there's, again, benefits from all of those aspects. Do you want to participate in a formal mentoring program, or do you seek informal mentoring relationships? So I said I was with Accenture for a number of years, and Accenture had a formal women's mentoring program. I was a fairly young mother and trying to figure out if I could really make all this work. And so I sought out a mentor who was a mother. She'd been with the company a little bit, probably about 3 or 4 years longer than I had. And it was what I needed at that time in my career, but your career changes, your situations change, and that's completely normal to seek out different relationships as you do maneuver various points in your career. So some questions to ask yourself before seeking a mentor relationship. Can you commit the time to the relationship? Are you prepared to be open to the feedback that you will receive and to take action when needed? Probably most importantly, what do you hope to accomplish, and what are you seeking from the relationship? I don't think there's a lot of value in just entering a mentor relationship if you don't have some goals in mind. I'm sure it can be helpful, and it's always good to have strong female or male mentors, but I think it's important for you to really ask yourself, what do I want to accomplish? What are my objectives? Questions to ask yourself when becoming a mentor. Can you devote the time to the relationship? Can you be objective, yet painfully honest when necessary? Are you willing to put in the work required for a meaningful relationship? There we go, just like that. I don't know if it's a battery issue, but we're good. Can you be objective yet painfully honest? Are you willing to put in the work? So preparation. I think as you are, again, either role you're in, preparing for your discussions is important. I currently have an informal relationship with someone who works in my organization. She's probably 2 or 3, 4 levels down in the organization. She came to me and said, I really think I can learn from you. Are you willing to be my mentor? First of all, it's very flattering, and I was appreciative that she asked. She is a dynamo when it comes to this relationship. She prepares for every meeting. When we talk through her questions and I make suggestions or things for her to think about, she calls that homework. And she goes and does her homework outside of each meeting and comes back to the next session with, I heard what you said, here's what I did, and now I have more questions. Or here's what happened, what do you think? And my point in sharing this with you is I learn so much from being a mentor. And I never really thought about that. She is just a really good person to be in this type of relationship because she's serious about it, she works at it, she prepares, and she challenges me. Now, the fact that we're in the same organization and she is, not a direct report to me, that took a lot of courage for her to come to me and say, would you be my mentor? And some of you may not be comfortable with that, that organizational hierarchy that we have, but we put that aside, and it's about what she needs. And if a career for her in the organization that I lead is the right thing, great. If it's not, that's equally great too. There's another quote, one of my very favorite quotes, and I hope I get this right because I didn't write it down, is be the female that straightens another woman's crown without telling the world about it. How cool is that? I really like that. Be the woman who straightens another woman's crown without telling the world about it. And I think that's important, but also relevant to mentoring. So other suggestions or considerations for mentoring. It is very important, and I've said this, but I'll say it again, it's very important to set expectations for both parties and to define success. So talk about what is it that the mentor wants to achieve, mentee, and as a mentor, what are your expectations? What are you going to expect of that person to support them in a mentoring relationship? Be trustworthy. Obviously, in the relationship I was just describing, I try very, very hard for our conversations to be about her and not about what's going on in our organization and where she is or what feedback she might be getting from others. Give needed feedback and set actions. Set actions and for the person you're mentoring, and then follow up on those. How'd you do? What'd you learn? What else what other questions do you have as a result of those actions? Have the freedom to change the relationship if it's not working. And so I talked about chemistry earlier. I think it takes a lot of courage, but if you're in a mentoring relationship, either party, and the chemistry isn't there, fix it. Say something about it, because there's a chance that you could be really wasting each other's time, and chemistry is really important in a mentoring relationship. Formal programs should be structured and provide templates. And then, as I said, understand the importance of chemistry. I already said that I feel like I get a lot more from being a mentor than I did as a mentee, and no disrespect to all the great mentors I had in my career. It's an interesting perspective, and I can't say that it's been there for all of the folks that I've mentored, but recently, and maybe it's where I am in my career, I get an awful lot from those conversations, because as she asks me questions and I make recommendations or suggestions, and she comes back and reports on them, I learned something about the human interaction. I learned something from, well, how did that go? Didn't go as we thought? Okay, note to myself, maybe that wasn't the best advice. And so just learning, taking the opportunity to learn from those conversations and the feedback that you get as a result of the actions. So I thought I would just ask you guys, I guess, if you think, each of you think about a positive mentoring experience or mentoring relationship you've had in your career. Are there any particular qualities or parts of that relationship that you'd want to share with us that were there and important for that relationship? Anything I haven't covered that you'd throw out as key factors in success? Anybody? Yes.
I would say being encouraging. I found that to be a really valuable part of that relationship.
Yes, very good. Being encouraging, being positive. Yeah. Did someone else raise their hand? No. Casey?
I think kind of what you said, but caring about me as a person and not just the work.
Yes.
The whole person is so important.
Yes. And I'm pretty sure everybody heard Casey, but she said really caring about the person as a person, and not where they are in the organization or what their current responsibilities are, but caring about them and where they are in their career and what they need from a mentoring relationship. Anybody else? Yes.
You mentioned confidentiality, but we signed NDAs, which you're talking about very sensitive stuff.
Right.
And knowing that it's going to stay there, let our conversations go deeper.
Yep. Yes, good suggestion. Obviously, part of a formal program, signing a non-disclosure agreement between the parties so that people feel comfortable that what stays in the conversations, what happens and is said in conversation stays there. That's a good point. Yes.
Yeah, I've been blessed to have a lot of mentors, specifically strong female ones, and something that's always helped me is to have it not feel like it's just about me all the time. So also sharing things that are going on in your life and really allowing it to be a two-way conversation, so that you feel that you're also getting to know your mentor.
Right.
As a person, and on that level.
I like that. So even though it should be about the mentee, but also the mentor as well. And really, I guess another way to say it is make it about the relationship and the two-way street of learning a lot about each other. Again, if the chemistry is there and it makes sense, those kind of conversations are pretty natural, I think, but certainly valuable part of mentoring is for that to be a two-way street and get to know each other. Yes?
So I had a phenomenal mentor who really embraced the ability to accept failure. That was something that I was struggling with significantly, and even though I didn't have significant failures, but just the thought of it would paralyze me, and he walked me through that journey. He also walked me through the fact that I would refer to some people that I looked at as role models. Is that he taught me how to keep those people as role models while still cultivating me, right? I'm not them. That was their life. That was their journey. I have to live my own journey and have my own person, right? So the biggest thing is trying not to emulate somebody else, but to just do truly who you're supposed to be.
Right. Yes, very good. Thank you for for sharing. Yes?
I had a pivotal moment in my career where I was kind of looking at a fork in the road, and this mentor really helped challenge me to get out of my comfort zone. You know, and sometimes you have to take this big leap of faith and recognize it wasn't even a path that they were mentoring me along, recognize it's an opportunity, and really helped me almost take that leap that I think it really was impactful for my career.
Good. Yes, I think strong mentors do push us and challenge us to get outside of our comfort zone and to think of things differently. Sometimes we get, I'll call it, wrapped around the axle. I think as females, we are worse at that than our male counterparts can be. And it's societal mostly, I think, the way we were brought up, the way we were trained or taught to believe that women had a certain role. And so having mentors who really challenge your thinking on that are very helpful. So, well, good. Thank you for sharing. That was really helpful. And I like I said, I always learn a little something from these conversations. And so I appreciate you guys speaking up and offering your experience and your lessons learned as well. So I just, in closing, I just want to, say that paving the way for women, there's so many ways that we can and should focus on that, but I think mentoring is a big piece of it. And if you're thinking about being a mentor and you've never stepped out there, speaking of getting outside your comfort zone, I just can't emphasize enough how much you will get out of the relationship, more than you, at least in my experience, more than you really ever thought. You learn and grow yourself while you're challenging someone else. Sometimes I'll say something to my mentor and I'm like, God, that sounded really good. Where did that come from? I'll have to try that myself. But in all seriousness, I encourage you to both be mentors and continue to pursue your mentee relationships as well. So thank you for having me. It's great to see all your beautiful faces today, and thank you. Enjoyed it.
Thank you, Stephanie. We really appreciate that. So let's be intentional about the people around us and how we can impact their lives and what we can bring to each other as we look for mentors and as we mentor each other as well. Okay, we get to take another break, so please visit Fourth Capital, Carbon Culture, Grogan Jewelers, and the Career Thrivers sponsors booth during this break. That can be a tongue twister. I just figured that out. So you can also visit the restrooms right there, and we'll see you back in about 5 minutes.
I've got to go back for my friend's daughter's wedding. September 23rd. I'll be down there.
Jim's Place East. That's time when we used to.
Let's see. Aha, I got the right one. Yay. Welcome back, everybody. If you will, find your seats. We will get started with our next speaker. But before we do that, we've got some door prizes to give away. All right, Rebecca Zeitlin. And Lydia Shriver. All right, ladies, I think you are in for a treat with our next speaker. Our next speaker is the CEO of Career Thrivers, which is a leadership development program that focuses in the diversity, equity, and inclusion areas. And today, just like these cards say, we are going to learn how to thrive through it. And I don't know about you, but after the last 2 years, I could really use some advice on thriving through things. So, Brittany?
Well, good morning, everyone. Really, really thrilled to be here. I always like to start these opportunities with gratitude. And so I want to say to Williamson County, thank you so much for bringing me over from Davidson. I'm a Nashville native and really thrilled to be in person, you all, for what is, I was reflecting on this morning, the first in-person speaking event that I have done since February of 2020, where there's actually people in the audience. So I am so excited. So pardon me if I'm like all over the place, because I'm like, okay, I've gone in and I've talked to screens and cameras. And of course we do the home office thing, but it's really, really nice to feel the energy in the room today. So we've been talking about paving the way for the next generation. And one of the things that I think that requires is resilience. How many have had to tap into resilience over the last, we won't even go beyond this year. If you've had to tap into some resilience in 2021, I'm right there with you. And this topic is so important to me, and I like to give this visual of typically what we do, especially as women. So usually, I want you to just reflect in your mind for a few seconds. When you hear the word resilience, what comes to your mind? Maybe we'll take a few volunteers. One word, what comes to your mind? Yes. Just get it done. Love that? Yes. Flexibility. Did I see a hand? Strong. Anyone else? We'll take one more. Resilience. What comes to your mind? First thing. Patience, perseverance. Yes. I often think about, prior to walking us through what we'll talk about today, is bouncing back. And typically, we kind of get the visual of a rubber band in our mind, right? We are resilient, right, when we are able to bounce back. And I don't know about you, again, we won't go beyond this year, but in 2021, I've had some moments that have stretched me. I've had some moments where, just like I'm feeling the tension in this rubber band right now, and starting to see it crack a little bit, I've been like, okay, I think I can persevere. I think I can stay strong. I think I can just get it done. But then we say, well, but I need to be resilient, right? And we prioritize, yes, you flinched and so did I, that bounce back, right? And for me, what that represents, I want you to hold that in your mind, because what I believe is that is what happens when we prioritize the speed with which we recover from change challenge and loss versus how do we extrapolate the lessons from those moments so that we don't just look to bounce back to where we were before the thing happened, insert the thing, right? But that we actually move through it, or we thrive through it with authenticity, purpose, courage, and joy. And the reason why this is so important in this room is because according to Lean and McKinsey, for the last 6 years, they've done a Women in the Workplace study. And what they shared in 2020 was that 1 in 4 women, Q3 of 2020 was when it was released, 1 in 4 women are currently considering either leaving the workforce or downsizing their career. Now, that may not be any of the women in this room who woke up and was in the room at 8 a.m. for a leadership conference, okay? So I'm gonna assume I'm talking to some exceptions in the room, but I'll tell you who's feeling this, not just women, but also companies. So at the same time that is true for professional women, what we're seeing with organizations that we work with at Career Thrivers is that the Great Resignation is upon us. And which dimension of diversity is leading that exodus from particularly the corporate workspace? Women. And especially 3 types of women. Senior level women who are, instead of doing 2 jobs, oftentimes are now doing 4. Caregivers who are sometimes a mom or either taking care of elderly parents and family. And then last but not least is Black women, right? So that intersection of gender and race that we sometimes leave out of these conversations. Those 3 segments of women have faced and had really challenging experiences, we'll say, over the last 18 months. And so what I want us to work through today, if you'll just sit at the edge of your seat, right? This is why we're here today. I know this will be a little bit uncomfortable, but just go with me for a second. I want you to sit at the very, very end of your seat. I want you to ground your feet on the floor, right? So you feel really grounded in the chair. And then I want you to do something. Here's the precursor. It's gonna feel strange. I want you to sit up as tall as you can in the seat. Sit up tall, sit up tall, sit up tall. Everybody sit up tall. Now I want you to take a hand and put it on top of your head. I know it feels weird. Go with me. I want you to pretend a string is there, and I want you to pull up. Did anyone sit up taller? Yeah, I thought you were sitting up tall, though. That's what I want you to experience when we finish today. I want you to walk out of here feeling a little bit taller, like you may be feeling tall now. I don't know about you, but those first 2 sessions have me really pumped up. But I want you to leave here feeling a little bit taller, right? And really redefining resilience, what it means to thrive, okay? And so we're gonna talk about, for the next few minutes here, what does it mean to get real? I want you to say, get real. We're going to get real about resilience today. And it's an acronym because I believe as a teacher, never officially been a teacher, but I have the divine deposit gift of teaching, and I love doing it. It's one of the reasons why I started a leadership development firm. One of the best ways to help adults retain information is through acronyms. And so I saw the FAT acronym. I saw the ladies write, and I was like, oh, she knows it. She got them. They were writing, okay? So we're going to talk about today, how do we get real? How do we get real about resilience? And one of the reasons why this is so critical is because when we think about in our own lives, both personal and professional, and I say that with emphasis because another dynamic that we see of women, particularly in the workplace, is that we often try to compartmentalize, right? This is my work self. This is my personal self. This is my faith self. As the daughter of a pastor for all of my life, I'll say. My dad's been pastoring for 36 years, but for all of my life, I know what it's like to try to live in those lanes. And guess what I've learned through loss? It doesn't exist. It's not real, right? When we show up with all of ourselves in the space. And if there's one thing that loss teaches us, if there's one thing that we've learned with whatever your loss has been, we've all experienced some type of grief over the last 18 months. But if there's one thing that loss does for us, it helps us to prioritize purpose. We get really, really, really clear. I love that first talk. We get really, really clear on what is it that really matters to me? What is it that I really want, right? That's why we're seeing a lot of the shifts in the workforce right now. And so we have to get real. So the R of getting real is to reflect. I want you to say reflect. Reflect. Now, we're going to do another quick exercise that I love doing when I'm in coaching sessions with clients, and it's around vision, right? How many of you have spent some time, extended time probably over this last year, thinking about the vision of the life you want to live? Anybody? Okay, so I want us to do something. Again, we're going to move around today. I want you to stand up for just a moment, just right where you are. Stand up with me, okay? And I want you to close your eyes, And I want us to envision 3 years from today. And I want you to get a picture in your mind of the vision of the life you want to live. Excuse me. What type of work are you doing? Are you working in your business? Have you started a business? Are you growing the company where you show up every day and you're getting more business there? What's your title? Who are you working with? Are you going into the office? Are you working from home? Who are you working with? Are you doing teamwork? What does your team look like? When you wake up in the morning to get dressed to go to work in the morning, are you getting fully dressed? Is it the half up, relaxed down, like we've all been in over the last year or so? What's your family like, right? What are you doing in the morning before you get up and go to work? Are you fixing lunch for kids to get off to school? Are you celebrating graduations? What does your life personally and professionally look like 3 years from now? And I want you to take about another 15 seconds just to think about that in your mind. How are you moving through the day? Think beyond the title. What type of work are you doing? How are you making an impact in the lives of the people that are around you? What do your mentors look like? Who is mentoring you, and who are you being a mentor to? Now, open your eyes, and I want us to do something that oftentimes as women we don't often do, which is to share our vision with someone else, to take it out of the lockbox of our mind and to actually articulate it out into the world. So I just want you to turn to whoever's next to you. You can keep your distance, and we're gonna take about 30 seconds, and I want you to share just a little bit of that vision that you just thought about. Take about 30 seconds and share. And for our virtual friends, you can put it in the chat if you're online.
My vision was in the mountains with my Bernese mountain dog and my bed and breakfast, and my morning getting up, reading all my guests, and writing my book.
Yeah, I love that.
I know.
And our book club. We're the book club.
Are you really? You should come. What kind of club is it?
It's just,
Take about 10 more seconds.
What are the people like? Just a group of
Professional friends.
we're inviting other professionals, and we choose the book.
All right, if you'll have a seat, thank you so much. And I'll start with our virtual friends. If you can hear my voice, clap once. If you can hear my voice, clap twice. Fantastic. So if you are online, feel free to put into the chat what that experience was like for you if you shared in the chat. I know sometimes it can be a little bit different online, but we appreciate you all being with us. And if you're in the room, I just want to get 2 volunteers just to share what, you don't have to share your vision aloud, but what was that experience like? 2 volunteers. I see a hand here. Vulnerable. Hold that. One more. What was that experience like? Just for a few moments. I love it. Exciting. Hard not to dance. All right. So that first R is about getting real. I'll tell you all quickly. My corporate background was in sales and marketing. I spent about 12 years at Pfizer. I used to have to say, people ask the inevitable question, what do you do? I'd say, I work at Pfizer. This was before I knew how to actually introduce my impact and not just my title. But I'd say I work at Pfizer, and I'd see the glaze over. And then I would say, the company that makes Viagra. And they'd say, oh, okay. And now, of course, we all know who Pfizer is. And so I was working there. I'm a Nashville native. I had relocated to Chattanooga for a promotion. And then I was working on this really, really big promotion from sales into marketing. So got the job shortly after getting married. There's another story there. We'll save that for another time. And relocate, first time living outside of the state of Tennessee. I'm a UT Knoxville graduate. Had never lived outside of Tennessee before. My husband and I, we moved to the middle of Manhattan. So you can imagine we were excited. We're newlyweds. He's just gotten his MBA. I've been working for the company, I guess we were for about 9 years at that point. And we're thrilled. We're about to live this brand new life in the middle of the city and do all of the things. And I'll tell you, the way that life shows up when you least expect it, 3 months after taking that new role, new team, new city, unexpectedly, my very best friend, I resonated so much with what you shared, my mother died unexpectedly. And that journey for me of grief helped me really to redefine what it means to really be resilient. Because what I tried to do was to show back up in the workplace like nothing had happened. And how many of us know that doesn't really work well, particularly with deep loss, right? We can sometimes wear the mask when it's, small things, or we train our brain to compartmentalize. I grew up in corporate, so I know that lane really well. But what I learned through that moment was that this isn't real, and it caused me to reflect. It caused me to really think about, what is it that I really want? I'm going through the motions of this role, amazing work, fantastic experiences, brilliant people, but what is that vision, just like you all kind of tapped into, of the life that I wanted to live? And frankly, it looked different. I wanted to do more things like this. I wanted to build the side hustle business that I had started and was coaching on the side and speaking on the side. I knew that that was the work that really spoke to my purpose, and I wanted to live in that place versus visiting it every now and then. And so I had to reflect. And that's the first thing that we have to do when we're met with change, challenge, and loss, if we're going to redefine resilience. The second thing that we have to do to get real is then once we reflect, we're able then to evaluate. We're able to evaluate. And what evaluation is about is priorities. I'm going to share a good book with you. So I have a library of recommended books on the website of that yellow card, but I'll share one of them with you. It's called Essentialism by Greg McKeown. And the whole premise of the book, anyone in here read the book, Essentialism, or heard about it? Okay, I see a few hands. The whole premise of the book is about doing less better. It will change your life. It's a fantastic book. But one of the things that loss inevitably or change inevitably helps us to do is to make decisions about what really matters to us. The companies that we work with in the DEI space over the last 18 months have had to make some priority shifts, right? Most of the organizations that we work with have somewhat started moving in the direction of prioritizing DEI in the workplace, but many had not. And so part of their reflection, right, whether they were doing that with us as a partner or doing it on their own, was to say, what do we really want to look like in a few years, just like we did here? And then what perhaps adjustments is the A of getting real do we need to make that so? So as we're evaluating, it helps us to get clear about those adjustments. Here's what it looks like when we don't take the 2 steps. And I don't know about you, but if you've ever done DISC or if you know your personality type, I'm a high D. So any Ds? Driver, achiever, want to get it done. I heard that over here. Right? You're like, what's the bottom line? What's the solution here? What are we doing? And typically when you're wired that way, and especially when you are pressed with change and challenge, it's like, what is the thing we need to do? And what we saw with many companies last year, it's like, oh, we need to react to the murder of George Floyd. We need to react to the murder of Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery. We need to do something, right? And what happens is if you don't do the first 2, if you don't reflect and you don't properly evaluate, then you end up taking actions that don't really meet the real needs of the root cause of the problem. That happens both in organizations and it also happens in us, right? So as we are experiencing change, challenge, and loss, we're getting real. We have to reflect. We have to then evaluate. We have to make the adjustment. And the last way that we get real, and it's my favorite, and we'll wrap up here, is we have to lose the cape. Just say it with me, lose the cape. Yeah, so this one is tough, again, for us, right? Because we can sometimes very easily slip into superwoman syndrome, right? We are showing up being everything for everybody. We're proving the status quo wrong. We're changing the face of our organization. We're really passionate about gender equality. We're passionate about the intersection of gender and race and equity. And, right, if we don't prioritize self-care within that, and if we don't prioritize the vulnerability, which I heard earlier within that, then it can cause us really to lose ourselves, right? It goes back to that pop back where you're doing all of the things at the detriment of your mental and emotional well-being. Anybody felt challenged in that space from a wellness perspective over the last year? I see the hands. You don't have to raise them high. I understand. You can keep it here if you got colleagues in the room, right? But I'll tell you that is data-driven, right? In that same Women in the Workplace study, one of the biggest challenges over the last year has been burnout. Burnout as a result of us feeling like we have to do all of the things. And so as I was journeying through my own grief process and recognizing, okay, I'm going through this process, I'm reflecting, I'm evaluating, I'm making the adjustments, which I'll go back here for just a quick second. Part of the adjustments also means we have to show up and have honest conversations with other people, right? We have to prioritize empathy within that. And as I was losing my cape, I'll never forget this moment. I had about 15 minutes before I had to meet with my VP to talk about the millions of dollars we were moving to another digital asset. Can I tell you how interested I was in that a few months after my mom died? Not very, but I had to show up, right? I had to get the job done. And so my mom, we were best friends, she would call me in the middle of the day, every day. What are you doing? Mom, I'm working. I'm doing the same thing I'm doing every day at this time. And so every now and again, I'd pick up the phone, oh, Mom, I'm about to go in a meeting and I'll call you back. And so if anyone, all of us have experienced grief, but deep loss, or the challenging part about grief is that it's so unpredictable. So I'm sitting in this meeting, sitting in my office, preparing for this meeting, and I just glance at the phone. And I don't know what, caused me to feel emotional, but it's just tears. I'm just bawling, and I've got this meeting, and I've got this deck, and I need to do all of these things. So I send this quick note to my VP, letting her know I'll be there 5 minutes after I get my, makeup and mascara. Okay, eyes, they're white, not red. Okay, let's go. And I walk into the room, and I'll never forget this moment. My VP looks at me, I sit down, and she asks me, how am I doing? Now, nothing unusual there, right? She asked that question. But you know the difference when someone asks you that question in passing and they ask it and they really want to know the difference in what you say and how you say it? And so I heard how she said it, and I can remember in my mind going through the Rolodex of how do I respond. I'm like, I'm on her time. It's not often that we get as much time as we were about to spend. We got a lot to cover. I'm fine. And do I just go in and I'm fine and we get to the agenda? Or do I lean into vulnerability and let her know how I'm really doing? And I don't know what it was that day that caused me to choose the latter, but I chose the latter. And I'll never forget her looking at me and telling me, Brittany, if you ever have a moment like that, I told her about the few minutes before the meeting and why I needed an additional 5 minutes. She said, I don't care who you're meeting with. I don't care if you're meeting with me or the CEO. If we need to reschedule, that's okay. And in fact, if you need to take the afternoon off, block out your calendar. That's why you have an admin. We can talk about this when you're in a better place. And I can't even today explain the weight that lifted from hearing my leader's leader, yeah, 3 levels, say that to me. And I never ended up needing the afternoon, but it was the awareness of that leader to be able to say that, but it was also me deciding in the moment to lean into vulnerability. So as we wrap up today and as we go back to our busy work lives, whether that's you're working in the office or you're trying to figure out what does return to the office look like, but we're met even this year with change, challenge, and loss. I want to encourage you to get real. To not just to prioritize how do we go back or how do we get back. Listen, no company, no professional or entrepreneurial leader is going back to January of 2020. That just isn't happening. We have to reimagine and we have to reinvent with resilience. And one of the ways we do that is by getting real. Thank you so much. Oh, I have one more thing while I still have the mic. I am the Career Thrivers booth. You won't see the words, but you'll see Thrive Through It is by the door. So if you feel free to stop by for the first 10, I want to gift you my book, which is called Thrive Through It, and a copy of the workbook. Thank you.
Thank you, Brittany. Y'all, has today not just been amazing? Okay, let's have a little more enthusiasm about how amazing today has been, please. Thank you to all of our speakers. I know that I have walked away with so many just wonderful little nuggets, just wrapping back up to being intentional. Who in your life can you serve? And not just in your work life, but in your home life. I sometimes think that at home, those are the ones that I neglect the most, especially since I see them all the time. Little people, teenage people, driving in the car with my teenage person. Okay, anyway, who can you serve? And then mentoring, that servant heart in that mentorship relationship. Do you need a mentor? Who is it that you can seek out to ask for help? It's okay to ask for help, especially right now. And then just getting real. Like, how often do we need to just be real right now? We don't have to be fake. We don't have to put on the little happy face. We can have, party on the bottom, pajamas on the bottom, business on the top, and it's okay. That's one of the great things about, I think, what's happened with all of this is that we just get to be who we are and be who we were created to be. So I hope that as you walk out of here today, you are able to thrive through whatever that next situation is, and that you've made some connections and some people that you can reach out to help you along the way. So as we walk away from today, thank you again to each one of our sponsors for the ability to be here together, to gather together and see these beautiful faces in person, even if it's just half of your face. Thank you for being with us today. Thank you for those of you who have joined us online. We hope that you have gotten a lot out of today as well. Our last door prize winner is Laurie Atkins. And then the winner of the Grogan Jewelers door prize is Whitney Snyder. Whitney, are you still here? There you are. Okay. There you go. And is somebody missing a bracelet? This beautiful bracelet? Aha, there we go. Okay, very good. We want to thank each one of our committee members for Women in Business. Ladies, if you are on the Women in Business Committee, will you please stand up and be recognized? Thank you all for helping make today possible. Thank you to each one of our chamber members, but the chamber staff for making today run smoothly as well. Thank you to our tech folks in the back, helping not just on the live side, but also in the virtual aspect as well. There on the bottom of your chairs, check them out, because you could have a hot pink Post-it note. And if you do, you get to take the centerpiece home. But let me clarify the centerpiece. Woohoo! Hot pink. Okay. Here's the very important part of the centerpiece take home. Please do not take the beautiful vases that are on the table. If you will, our lovely Vanna over here has, you're only taking the flowers home. Please do not take the vase, only take the flowers out. Our next event will hopefully be an October luncheon, so stay tuned for those details. And 10:30 is when the first shuttle will arrive to take you all back. Thank you once again for being a part of today, and we can't wait to see you next time. Have a great day.